Xbox continues to push back against concerns over the Activision Blizzard acquisition and creates an entire website going over all of the benefits. Alright guys, before we get into this, my goal is to hit 10k subscribers by the end of the year, and I see a lot of you are new here. If you like daily content, you like these styles of videos, please consider hitting that subscribe button. So all we've been hearing about lately when it comes to the Xbox and Activision Blizzard acquisition has been Sony doing everything in their power trying to stop this deal, going to the different market authorities and telling them why they think Xbox should not acquire Activision Blizzard, basically saying that it's going to hurt competition and that nobody is going to be able to compete with the likes of a game like Call of Duty. Now, if you're a PlayStation, you're sitting there, you're looking at everything that is going on within the industry, you're looking at your own network, you're looking at PlayStation yourself, and you're saying, man, this is going to have huge effects on us personally if this deal doesn't go through. But in the larger grand scheme of the video game industry, it is in no way going to hurt competition. In fact, it's probably going to be better for gamers, as there is more of a chance that you're going to be able to play the Activision Blizzard games where you want to play them. When you're PlayStation, you're thinking about having to spend all of that money to pay these royalties over to Xbox in the future, so Xbox can go ahead and take that money, reinvest it into Xbox, reinvest it into Xbox Game Pass, and continue to grow. Now, Xbox and Microsoft have replied multiple times to some of the claims that Sony has made, and they have officially launched a website documenting what their thoughts are on the acquisition, what they're trying to do with this acquisition, what their goals are going forward, and then all of the quotes that they have made in terms of responding to things like PlayStation saying that they are worried about Call of Duty not being on the PlayStation platform. So here is the website. It's a pretty in-depth website. They have a lot of information here where they talk about everything that they have stated and their goals for the Xbox Activision Blizzard acquisition. First of all, they say here, players and developers are at the center of Xbox. We want to enable people to play games anywhere, anytime, and on any device. And developers deserve more options to build, distribute, and monetize their groundbreaking games. When we do this, we all win. That's why we're sharing more on the industry and how our acquisition of Activision Blizzard fits into our gaming strategy. And then they go down here and they have this graphic showing the benefits of Xbox plus Activision Blizzard. So first of all, benefits for the players, more games on more devices, including Xbox, PlayStation, phones, and online. Funny how they emphasize there right in the first benefit that it is going to allow people on PlayStation to continue to play these games, specifically Call of Duty. We know Modern Warfare 2 is coming to PlayStation. The next Call of Duty is going to be coming to PlayStation. I'm assuming the Call of Duty after that's going to be coming to PlayStation. And then they'll probably reevaluate everything at some point, whether it's worth it for their business to continue to put the games on those platforms, or if they can work out some sort of deal with PlayStation to, hey, maybe get Xbox Cloud Gaming on the platform or Xbox Game Pass on the platform and keep people who want to stay within that PlayStation ecosystem in the PlayStation ecosystem, but at the same time still get access to some of the Xbox Game Pass stuff. I know that's a long shot. I know it's a crazy thing to think about, but you never know going forward if that's something that may eventually happen. There have been so many things that have happened this generation so far that people would have never thought about, and it's going down. So we'll see what other things can occur in the future. Continues here to say choice in how and where people buy games with subscription and one-off purchase options. That's a huge thing because one of the biggest negatives and drawbacks with the PlayStation platform is how badly they lock you in to PSN, the PlayStation Network, where they control the prices of all their first-party stuff, all of the sales. There's a lot of bad things happening in terms of indie developers talking about how they really had no say on the prices of their games within the PlayStation Network. They couldn't discount them when they wanted them to, and it was just really hard as an indie developer to thrive within the PlayStation Network. And that's a big thing with PlayStation that not a lot of people talk about, and PlayStation continues to close off their ecosystem and make you forced to spend all of your money within PlayStation Network to get all of the features that they have, especially with the stuff that we just saw with the PlayStation Stars rewards, where if you want better customer service, you better be spending more money within the PlayStation Network. And then finally, the last point, something that we are seeing a major focus on across the entire industry, and that is mobile gaming. And they say here, for the 95% of gamers who play on phones, alternatives to gaming offerings from the dominant mobile platforms, which of course they're referring to, I would assume, the ability to access xCloud, Xbox Cloud Gaming on your phone and play all of those games within that service, and not just play games from the Google Play Store or from Apple's App Store. The second point here, benefits for game creators, more ways to get games into the front of more players through support, investment, and better access to gamers, which we've seen multiple benefits come out of Xbox Game Pass in terms of developers saying that they have made more money by putting their game into Xbox Game Pass. It's rejuvenated their games because they're getting access to tons of people that they wouldn't have gotten access to otherwise. Better revenue and fair marketplace rules through our App Store principles. Now, this is something that I think they would probably have to adjust going forward. I think they still have that 70-30 revenue split, and there have been upgrades in terms of, I think, the Epic Game Store, which reduces that revenue split where they give more money over to the developers. I think it's like 12% or something like that in terms of how much they take. But to be fair, they did actually cut the revenue split with Xbox games on PC to match Epic Game Store, but the console side is still the 70-30 thing. They finally say here, greater flexibility in payment systems and the experience they provide to their fans. Then the final point, benefits for the gaming industry, more competition in mobile where a couple of big players dominate. Again, I'm assuming they're considering and talking about Google Play Store and Apple, and especially with somebody like Apple who has a very closed ecosystem, they are trying to get into that. We saw the entire thing with trying to get Xbox Game Pass onto Apple, how they had to do an entire workaround by getting you to only access it through the browser, not being able to put the Game Pass app. And I think it was something along the lines that Apple was saying they can't validate every single game within the Xbox Game Pass app. So the only way that they would allow this was to make Microsoft and Xbox release each game as a separate app within the App Store, which is just absolutely absurd. Second point here for the gaming industry, greater competition in traditional gaming where Sony and Nintendo will remain the biggest. I mean, right there, competition. This is a thing that everybody has been talking about, especially Jim Ryan and Satya Nadella saying, hey, let's compete. And then emphasis on positive workplace culture and increased local investment from Microsoft and studios and creative ecosystems around the world. So they put out this graphic. This is something that I'm assuming they're going to be sending it around to the market authorities as the process continues to get this deal approved. Now, they released these graphics here talking about the rise of gaming revenue. And as we know, gaming revenue continues to get bigger and bigger every year. A massive, massive industry. $165 billion in 2020 in terms of gaming revenue. And the biggest part continues to be, and will continue to be going forward, is mobile gaming, because it's a device that you literally can't live without anymore in today's world. A smartphone. Everyone has one. Everybody has access to games through it. Even the cheapest smartphones can play games these days. So it's such a massive industry to dominate, and we are seeing every company trying to dominate the mobile industry, or at least trying to get a leg up going forward. Even PlayStation saying that they are going to be working on mobile games, and Xbox. One of the biggest things with this acquisition is going to be Candy Crush, as well as obviously Call of Duty Mobile and Diablo Immortal, stuff like that, which is going to really help bolster their mobile gaming division. So they show this. They show how it's really evolved. If you were around when I was around, where you had like the Super Nintendo and even still arcades at that time that were pretty prominent, then going forward to now, which is a time where mobile dominates, and then consoles still are doing great, but the cloud gaming is going to be the big step forward, which is going to be the next thing that gets games into literally every device, and will not matter at all what hardware you have. And they focus here on the 3 billion players worldwide, which is something that Xbox wants to do. And the only way they're going to be able to do that is by keeping games on as many platforms as possible. But here's where it gets the most interesting, I think, when it comes to this website. They have this document here. It's a PDF document. You can go ahead, you can download it, you can take a look at it. And they have documented all of the quotes and all of the things that Microsoft spokespeople have said, Microsoft leaders have said with the Activision Blizzard acquisition, which is really interesting to take a look at, because it goes all the way back here, starts in January of 2022. And this is a quote here from Phil Spencer on January 20th, 2022. It says, "Had good calls this week with leaders at Sony. I confirmed our intent to honor all existing agreements upon acquisition of Activision Blizzard and our desire to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation. Sony is an important part of our industry, and we value our relationship. And I find this one funny, but also important at the same time, because this is a quote that came out before we heard about all the stuff what Sony was saying, trying to block the deal, them being apparently worried that Call of Duty isn't going to be on the platform. There isn't going to be parity between the versions of Call of Duties between Xbox and PlayStation. And Phil Spencer addressed this way back in January. They have calls. They probably have a lot more documentation on this. And I think this is going to be a very big thing that they're going to be able to present going forward when trying to get this deal to go through, where they've said, hey, they're talking about competition. They're talking about Call of Duty not coming on PlayStation. We've already assured PlayStation that we don't plan to take Call of Duty off of their platform. Then we move up here, and this is a very interesting quote for a couple of reasons. And this is from Brad Smith, the Microsoft Vice Chair and President. He said this on February 10th, 2022. He says, one of the things we're being very clear about as we move forward with the regulatory review of this acquisition is that great titles like Call of Duty from Activision Blizzard today will continue to be available on the Sony PlayStation. Yeah, he ends that first part there. And then he goes on to say, we'd like to bring it to Nintendo devices. We like to bring the other popular titles that Activision Blizzard has and ensure that they continue to be available on PlayStation. They become available on Nintendo. Again, February 10th, 2022, Brad Smith says this for all the stuff that has come out recently by PlayStation trying to block the deal. Not only do they want to keep games on PlayStation when it comes to Call of Duty, they want to try to bring these games over to Nintendo with the Nintendo Switch and then whatever device they have in the future, which makes me start to think, you look at everything that's been going on. First of all, they are heavily invested in cloud gaming. And what is their goal at the end of all of this? To be able to have this huge bargaining chip where they go to PlayStation, they go to Nintendo in a few years from now, and it's so enticing to Nintendo and to PlayStation that they will allow Xbox Cloud Gaming and Xbox Game Pass onto their platforms. Maybe that is their goal when they mention keeping these games on these two platforms. When you read in between the lines, you got to also step back and think that Microsoft, yes, they're keeping the games on the platform. Yes, they are the nice guys, I guess you could say right now in the video game industry, but it's all business at the end of the day. And if this deal does go through, I think it will go through, it's going to be something that they're going to be able to take to Nintendo and take to PlayStation, make a deal with them. It's not going to be a deal that's one-sided. It's going to be a deal where everyone benefits. Microsoft probably benefits a little bit more, but you present to them, hey, you put Xbox Game Pass on there, just an app where people can stay within your platform, stay within your ecosystem, but still have the ability to play games via Xbox Game Pass and Xbox Cloud Gaming. And then we get closer to where we are today, September 1st and September 30th, 2022, speaking about the deal, speaking about PlayStation upset with the deal, trying to block it, all that type of stuff. Phil Spencer has a bunch of quotes here. First of all, saying, in addition, we hope that players will be eager to play traditional console games from Activision Blizzard on other platforms via our cloud gaming streaming technology. And this kind of goes back to Brad Smith quote below that, where I think that when he says stuff like that, he is obviously referring to all the places that cloud gaming is available right now. But I think in the back of their mind, they could also be referring to getting cloud gaming on to the other platforms like Nintendo and like PlayStation. He also says here, when it comes to the CMA, we're ready to work with the CMA on the next steps and address any of its concerns. Sony, as the industry leader, says it's worried about Call of Duty, but we've said we are committed to making the same game available on the same day on both Xbox and PlayStation. We want people to have more access to games, not less. And he's not lying. You could take that quote and go all the way back down to January 20th, 2022, where he said Call of Duty is going to stay on PlayStation. And then the final quote here that I found interesting was that he said, Phil Spencer says here on September 2nd, that in January, we provided a signed agreement to Sony to guarantee Call of Duty on PlayStation with feature and content parity for at least several more years beyond the current Sony contract, an offer that goes well beyond typical gaming industry agreements. And again, this is why they have all of this documented, because he's not just coming up with this now because there's pushback. They have said and talked to Sony about this all year, that they are going to keep Call of Duty on their platform. And the thing that he does highlight, which PlayStation doesn't even do right now when they have the marketing rights to Call of Duty, is content parity. And Xbox is going to own Call of Duty, and they're willing to still give content parity to PlayStation when that's not going to be happening right now with Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. When it comes to content parity with exclusive stuff coming to PlayStation and not coming to Xbox. So there you have it. I mean, this is an interesting website. There's tons of information here if you want to go through it and look at where Xbox's stance is on this acquisition, and if they have all changed their tune from the beginning to the end. I don't think they have. They've been continuously saying the same thing. They're keeping games everywhere. They want to reach as many gamers as possible. And PlayStation is still continuing to come out and say that they don't think that this will be a good deal for the industry, will hurt competition. They're worried about PlayStation leaving the platform, even though we've seen going all the way back to January that Xbox has assured them that is not going to happen. But this, and overall, is a very interesting time within the industry that I don't remember ever really happening, where this type of stuff is so public for everybody to see what is going on. Everyone loves to talk about console wars on social media, where you have fanboys going at it against each other, but we are living through right now the real life console wars between Xbox and PlayStation, and it's going to continue until the final decision for this deal is made. But that's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all of this stuff. I'll have the link to the website below if you want to go through it. If you are new here, you enjoyed this content, consider hitting that subscribe button. If you are new here, thank you for watching. Thank you for your support, and I will catch you guys in the next video. We'll be right back.